moderate today. So if we could have your attention, I was going to say a few words.
All right, thank you. Welcome, everybody. It's a beautiful fall day, and with the weather unpredictable in the age of climate chaos, we're going to appreciate it when we get it. Can we have a round of applause for Brian for organizing another great demonstration outside Chase Bank? So we are part of Climate Action Rhode Island, and this protest is also part of a national movement called Stop the Money Pipeline. We are protesting against Chase Bank's continued investment in fossil fuel exploration, drilling, pipelines, combustion, and ultimately the destruction of stable life on Earth. So I'm the substitute moderator. I have my own little speech I want to give later, but for now, I believe we're going to start. Are we going to skip the chant, Brian, and go straight to speeches?
Yeah, why don't we do that? What time is it? David has to leave at 12:30.
Okay, I'm going to start by introducing the incredible Representative David Morales at the Rhode Island House of Representatives.
Now, brothers, sisters, and non-binary family, day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year, we continue to show up and organize amongst different community organizations, advocates, and young people to call out and demand accountability from the destruction and the inevitable climate crisis that Chase Bank is continuously contributing to. You have to look at the reality. The matter of the fact is they have countless investments in the billions of dollars as it relates to the fossil fuel industry. The chief executive officer made well over $400 million over the last several years. Because for them, it's about profit. It is about greed, as opposed to ensuring that people have access to the basic necessities, such as clean drinking water, clean air. Because for them, this is nothing more than a game. And that is why it's important our communities continue to stand up and call out this destructive behavior. Otherwise, the status quo is going to continue, and if not, be further expedited. And so we demand that we see divestment from consumers, that we seek divestment from Chase Bank in our communities. Because we also have to talk about another reality. Where do you find the Chase Banks of the world? Oftentimes now, they're now developing into some of the lower income communities across our state. And the matter of the fact is that they're going to continue to spend millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars on TV commercials, on advertisements, on philanthropy, to convince the community that they're good citizens and they're not doing anything that we should be concerned of, specifically with our funds. But instead, it is our responsibility to call out the truth, which is the fact that when we talk about drought, famine, forest fires, flooding, a lot of that's contributed back to the oil companies, the fossil fuel industries that are raking in billions of dollars with profit without any form of oversight. And one of the number one supporters of such industry that is causing the destruction in our communities is Chase Bank. And so we're sending a clear message to the Chief Executive Office, to the shareholders, to Chase Bank's physical branch locations all across Rhode Island, that we're not going to continue to stand and allow for them to come into our communities and be able to continue perpetrating lies while they cause destruction across the globe. Because the reality is, a lot of the shareholders and the executive officers will never know what it feels like to actually experience drought, to be a climate refugee, to experience environmental racism. And unless we are here to remind them, they're going to continue making these investments without question. And so our presence here matters. Every time we show up, regardless of what branch location, it matters. It matters enough for them to ensure that they hire more security for that given day. It matters to the extent that they are paying attention and they know that they're climate criminals. And one day, within the near future, they're going to be held accountable. Held accountable at the local level, at the state level, and most importantly at the federal level. But that's only going to happen if we continue mobilizing. And so it's just a continuous movement. And for that, I say thank you. Because a lot of this work that's being done is organized by grassroots advocates. Not people who are funded by shareholders, not people who are funded by the fossil fuel industry, not any foreign corporate interests, but instead the people power. And so for that, I say thank you to everyone for continuously showing up, and together let's ensure, whether it's a continued petition, protesting, letting our neighbors know, cutting up your Chase credit cards. Let's be clear that this destructive behavior cannot continue, and accountability is coming your way, Chase Bank. Thank you.
Divest from Chase! 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 Divest from Chase!
All right, thank you, Rep. The next speaker that I'd like to introduce, if you're ready, Daniel, from the Jewish Youth Climate Movement of Rhode Island. We've got this fantastic contingent of high schoolers. Probably they're practically in college by now. But Daniel, what's your last name again?
Velker.
Daniel Velker, take it away.
Hi, my name is Daniel Velker from the Jewish Youth Climate Movement branch in Rhode Island. Here today with Climate Action Rhode Island support. We came here today to show that we will not stand back as our world is destroyed, and that we're sick of waiting and prepared to take action to fight climate change. Because my generation is sick of hearing that it'll all be fine. We are sick of hearing of lies. We see that 1,717 people were killed by flooding in Pakistan, that a third of the country was underwater. We see that over 100 people were killed in Florida by Hurricane Ian less than a month ago. We even saw Providence, right where we are today, flooded not so long ago. We can choose to ignore climate change, but it will refuse to ignore us. And there's no better place than to take a stand in front of Chase Bank right here, right now, today. Because the fossil fuel companies that are responsible for the damages, well, guess who they're funded by? Chase guys. That's why we're here. Over the last 4 years, Chase has poured over $300 billion into the fossil fuel creating companies, even after the Paris Climate Accord agreements. Far more than any other bank in the entire world. It's absurd that they can hide this from the public, and even from their own customers, whose money they are taking into terrible, terrible places. Chase Bank is giving these companies the power to destroy our planet. And then Chase has the audacity to say that they care about climate change. We know the only thing they care about is money. There's plenty of other banks, and so we need to show that if they want to keep their customers, they're going to finally have to make a difference and stay true to their word. They're going to have to make a real change and stop expanding the fossil fuel industry. The time for action is now, and together we can, and we will, make a difference. Thank you guys for coming.
So I'm going to pass the moderation over to Carrie's treasurer, Caitlin Sanford, and Dave is going to do a chat.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming out. It's awesome to see you all. I just want to say, as a treasurer, we are definitely not putting our money in any bank that supports continued investment in oil and gas.
Okay.
Yeah. We're very happy with our credit union. It's a nonprofit owned by its members. There's lots of options out there, so we can all make that choice and say no. The time has passed. These guys have made enough money. Their executives are flying high, while probably the people working in this bank barely make a living wage. We're sick of it, and we're done.
Yeah.
I want to hand it over to Dave, amazing, dedicated activist who's going to lead us in a chant.
Super. All right. So what are we here for today? We want climate action, right?
Right.
All right. So what do we want?
Climate action!
What do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Climate action!
When do we want it?
Now!
Do we want it next year?
No!
Do we want it next month?
No!
How about next week?
No!
How about tomorrow?
No!
When do we want it?
Now!
When do we want it?
Now!
When do we want
leading the way. They are angry. They have a right to be angry. They are calling us out on what previous generations have failed to do, and they're going to lead the way. Anytime you're feeling down, just look to the young people, right? Yep. That's right. All right.
Just make sure if you arrived late to sign in with either Janine or Elizabeth. They both is Janine. They have a sign-in sheet, so we need to keep track of who comes out so we stay in touch with you. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, look for those clipboards, get your name on it. Next, we want to welcome such an inspiring woman. Anyone in our group who's had the pleasure of speaking with Cynthia Mendez has just been moved, been fired up, just felt that that activism, that passion, that sense of community. And we're just so grateful for her leadership, her role in the Senate, her continued bravery to step up and run for office when that was not in her path, for all the activism she's done for those experiencing homelessness in our city, and for fighting for environmental justice, bringing those community voices and speaking to power. And we're so excited to hear from the inspiration, Cynthia.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm really, really grateful to be in this fight with you. I like conversations more than speeches. So if I'm saying something and talking about the fossil fuel industry or Chase Bank, feel free to yell shame, because we should be yelling that from the top of our lungs. And if you hear something that I'm saying that makes you want to fight, yell fight, because I will ask you what you're willing to do about it. If we're willing to fight, we have to be willing. Yeah, let's try it. Let's try it. What are we going to do about it? Fight. Okay, that sounds right. I have spent some time kind of thinking about where we are right now, and I want to center us in where we are right now. We are in late stages of capitalism. We are in the late stages of the climate crisis. We do not have time to beg and to ask. We have to be willing to be bold, to be aggressive, and to be able to say, by any means necessary, because our lives depend on it. Yeah. And I can tell you right now that if we were to ask the people in Pakistan, they would say, by any means necessary. And I can tell you right now, if we were to ask the doctors who are treating the children in the port of Providence right now, what are you going to do to save their lives? What are you going to do to make sure they have clean air? What are you going to do to make sure that they don't have lead in their soil? They would say, please fight. By any means necessary. We need to stop asking for permission. Stop asking for a way. It is always all hands on deck, every way possible, inside the State House, outside the State House, outside of banks, inside of banks, every chain of power that they have. Because I can tell you, Chase Bank and the fossil fuel industry will not go away quietly. This just transition that we're seeking, they will white knuckle their way to stay in existence. There is no way the fossil fuel industry will say, you're right, we're in the wrong, we're gonna go away. They will do whatever it takes to survive, and our response to that will be, we will do whatever it takes to survive. We will do whatever it takes to make sure that the children that are breathing polluted air survive. We will do whatever it takes to make sure our siblings in other countries that are underwater right now or experiencing drought, and even in our country, we will ignore borders. We will ignore class. We will ignore neighborhoods. We will ignore zip codes. We know that our survival is based on each other and our ability to say unequivocally, by any means necessary, I will fight for you. That's what we're going to do here. That's what we're going to do everywhere. And that's why I'm here with you today. And that's where I'm going. And I look forward to meeting you in street corners, in protests, in sit-ins, in the State House, and in banks, and in stores, and across the street, until we have them shaking in their boots. Because they will not let go of that grip. I'm telling you right now, we're going to need to pry their greedy hands open. And we plan on doing it. I do it with you, and I depend on the youth to lead us. I know you will do that, and we're going to be following you. Thank you.
Yes. Fight, 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 fight. Shame, 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 shame. Thank you, Cynthia. Thanks for all you do. All right, is Terry here? Terry. Terry's got the next chant for us.
Move your money, Chase, or we'll move ours. 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 Move your money, Chase, or we'll move ours.
That's right. Thank you, Terry. You know, a lot of us are fighters and we're angry, we're yelling. There's also power in, you know, like Gandhi, just being there, your presence, you're radiating kindness, but you're getting things done. Terry's bringing that to our group and we love it. All right. Next, we're going to hear from Diane, social worker, leader with Black Carry, tireless worker. She's been in every meeting, every committee. Let's hear for Diane. Give it up.
Well, it's almost Halloween, and I'm thinking about the most terrifying thing. Did you ever hear about this concept of tipping points? When I hear about that, I'm horrified, and I get a visceral reaction. Tipping points. I just saw it recently on my phone, Bloomberg News, not exactly a left-wing media outlet, but they had an article on tipping points saying that even if we are able to keep global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is the Paris Agreement, we are probably going to reach tipping points, which is when we reach the threshold where climate change is self-perpetuating. Self-perpetuating. So what does that mean? That means it's always gonna, it's irreversible. It's irreversible. And I wonder about Jamie Dimon. I mean, the billionaire head of Chase Bank. You know, this man went to Harvard Business School. I've been looking into him. And he seems to have forgotten what he learned in middle school about ecology. Remember ecology? Where this whole big system, you know, Mother Nature, it's all connected. And scientists are still trying to figure out all the connections and all the impacts. So can you imagine if we start having irreversible effects that change Mother Nature? Nobody knows what's going to happen, but it ain't going to be good for human beings, I can tell you that. It's not going to be good for us. It's going to be chaos. And Jamie Dimon, he's now going around. I just saw something where he said they've got to get it through their thick skulls that we can still do more explanation of gas, more exploration of gas, expanding gas drilling, and still bring climate change down to net zero. I say BS, more rationalizations, and talk about Halloween. I think the body snatchers have got him. I think, you know, his soul has been sucked out of him because he's a capitalist, yes? And all they know is about profit, a relentless, short-sighted goal of profit. Profit, you know, and they forget about human beings, all of us. I heard somebody lately on the radio, I think he was a professor, and I wish I remembered his name, but he said capitalists, they're not trying to kill us, they just don't care if we die. And that's about where it's at, you know? So I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. I do not admire these people. I don't care if they have billions. They are messed up. And I'm a social worker, and I can tell you, they've got pathology. They've got pathology. They've got spiritual pathology. Yeah, and I'm a grandmother. So I'm fighting for future generations. And that's what we should all be looking to. What's going to be in the future? And this, as I said, we're going to reach tipping points where it's going to be irreversible. And that's terrifying. So we're going to fight now. Fight. And I'm glad you're all here with me today, and we're going to keep up the fight. All right? Thank you.
We only found out recently that Diane was a speaker. We didn't realize it. She was a quiet person in the meetings. And wow, we're really wrong. So yeah, and I'm just going to add, make sure you get one of these sheets that talk about their criminal history. Chase's criminal history is part of their legacy along with the environment. In the last 10 years, they've been fined $26 billion in fines and settlements. So this is not a good group of people. These are not good people. And we're having the grand unfurling of our sign across the street. All right, taste it up. William Smith III, this is his creation, and he made a lot of the other stuff as well, such as the arrow. So Chase from Panic Death.
Shame.
So it's going to be over here. So congratulations, Chase, you received another award.
Diane mentioned the spiritual pathology of leaders of financial institutions who can look at people dying all around the world from, natural disasters related to climate crisis. And we need to turn to our faith leaders, right? Our faith leaders can inspire us, can show us the way, can bring us together, can keep us all connected, because we need community. Anytime when we're acting as individuals, our power is small, but together in community with our faith, we can move mountains. So I want to introduce the Reverend Donnie Anderson. Thank you, Donnie.
Thank you. Hey, look at you all out here on Fair Street in the middle of the day in Providence. Who do you think you are? Well, I'll tell you who I think you are. I think you're patriots. I think you are the kind of people America was built for, that when we see something, when we see evil, when we see greed, when we see people being put down, we stand up. So good for you for being here today. I don't know how many of you have seen or read Bill McKibben's latest book, okay? It's called The Flag, the Cross, and the Station Wagon. And in that book, Bill talks about the importance of the faith community in past social justice movements and the importance of the faith community being involved in this movement. And it's not, I happen to come from a Judeo-Christian tradition. I think what I'm going to say today applies to just about every tradition I know of. Hanging around my neck, you can't read this, but there's a little thing that I wear 24/7, and it says Tikkun Olam in Hebrew, and it means repairing the world, right? And that's what we need to be doing, repairing the world. Let me give you 3 quick principles that I think come out of my tradition, but I think apply to just every faith tradition I know. The first is this: that planet Earth was given to us as a gift. Yes. A gift that we are to care for. And when we do not care for that gift, okay, there's a simple word that we have for that. It's called sin. Yes. And it's something that is absolutely wrong, and it's evil. It's not just a mistake, okay? This is sin, it's intentional wrong, and people suffer and die because of that. Second principle is this: that we ought to care about those who are most vulnerable to any sort of evil or attack. Some of you are looking at pictures like this of people walking through water. Have you ever been in a village that's been flooded up to here and walked through water like that? I have. I've seen people's houses flooded like that because they live in an area that can't handle the water. And when I look at that, it just brings back ghastly memories. Because let me tell you what floats in that water. It ain't pretty stuff. That's about as ugly a scene as you can see. That's actually quite nice compared to what the reality is of when people have to live in that kind of situation. And so not only is planet Earth a gift, and we need to care for it, but we also need to be mindful of those who are most vulnerable and who suffer the most. Not the people who get to live at the top of the hill and all kinds of money and they can look down on all the sadness, but that we think about the people who are most hit by that. And then the third thing is this, and whether you're talking about the Hebrew prophets of old or you're talking about the gospel of Jesus, the Judeo-Christian tradition says this, that if you're in power and all you care about is bringing power to yourself and wealth to yourself, then you are dead wrong. And those Old Testament prophets were kick-ass, let me tell you. They know how to put it up there, okay? And they spoke truth to power. And that's what we're doing today, is speaking truth to power. Look, we know that banks like Chase that have all kinds of money have power, but they don't have ultimate power. We have ultimate power. You have ultimate power. You can make a change. You can make this different. And every single faith community ought to be standing right here with us today, saying the exact same thing, because this matters. This is a huge sin. It's a huge wrong. And I am so glad to be standing with these young people today and standing here proudly as members of the Jewish faith and the Jewish tradition, because you are standing on the shoulders of many women and men who came before you to stand for what's right. God bless you. Good for you. God bless you all. And let's fight!
Hi. Amazing. Thank you, Reverend. All right. Next, we're going to hear from the president of Climate Action Rhode Island with a call to action coming up in the next few weeks.
Okay, this is a very tough act. This is many tough acts to follow. So I'm not even going to try to be emotional or moving, and I'm actually going to do something that's difficult to do at an event like this, which is give some good news. So I just want to reflect a little. So I'm Justin, president of Climate Action Rhode Island, and I was just thinking back, thank you, this morning to how we got started. And I found an email in my inbox dated March 31st, 2017. And this was the early dark days of the Trump administration. We had the Exxon CEO at the State Department. We had Scott Pruitt at EPA. We had the U.S. being pulled out of the Paris Agreement, along with only Libya and Iran. We had 100 or more environmental standards being rolled back. So I was volunteering with Resist Hate Rhode Island, an anti-Trump resistance group, and we had a climate subgroup on Facebook, which was, you know, getting a little bit of traffic. And a doctor named Christine Rayner showed up, a psychiatrist with no organizing experience, no political experience. And she came on the Facebook group and she said, shouldn't we have a real world group? And I said, no, just climate only? She said, yeah. And she started talking to other people and finding out what other groups were on the ground, because we were by no means the first. There were a lot of environmental groups, but none really focused on strictly climate. And she wrote this email to Timmons Roberts, local climate luminary, and she wrote, I met with Justin Boyan tonight to discuss the needs for more activity in the Resist Hate Climate Group and also supporting Energize Rhode Island, Sierra Club, FANG, and other groups. I'd like to try and get that started. I would think of myself and others I hope to mobilize as being... And this is where she laid out the vision for Carrie. She says, I think of myself and others I hope to mobilize as being foot soldiers for the people who are thinking the big thoughts and writing legislation. And she says to Timmons, I would put you in that group. Would you be willing to spread the word? So that's really, you know, she launched Carrie, and some of the people, I see Terry back there, and Kendra Anderson, now a senator, who I hope will join us. There were 3 or 4 or 5 of us around Christine's dining table. We met every couple of weeks. You know, in a good meeting, we'd have 8 or 10 people. Sometimes it was just the 4 of us. But we saw that possibility of being foot soldiers for a climate movement. So I just want to say, not that we're responsible for all of this, but in the last 5 years, a lot of good stuff has happened. A lot of good stuff has happened, obviously, in spite of the person who was president for most of that time. So here in Rhode Island, we passed the Act on Climate. It was the first bill signed into law by Dan McKee, a little reluctantly, but then he did trumpet it and made a public show of it. It commits us to reducing carbon pollution 45% in Rhode Island by 2030. This year we passed the 100% renewable energy standard. 100% of Rhode Island's electricity will be from renewable sources by the year 2033, first in the nation. And 1,400 megawatts of power will be coming from offshore wind. By that time, new offshore turbines that are being constructed here, that's about half our homes from offshore wind, powered exclusively by offshore wind here. It's huge progress. It wasn't foreseeable in 2017. Oopsie, that's my speech. At the federal level, despite Senator Manchin from coal country watering the bill down by a factor of 2 or 3, despite that, we passed a $370 billion investment in clean energy, the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA. It was supported by 0 Republicans in Congress, 0 House, 0 Senate, and some dude in Cranston, Rhode Island, who's now running for Congress, said he would vote against the Inflation Reduction Act. So I'm going to talk a minute about Alan Fung. I mean, this guy claims to be a moderate. He goes around, he's very smiley. He seems to know a lot of people in the greater Cranston area. He's not a moderate. He voted for Trump in 2016 after Trump had already said that climate change was a hoax. He supported Trump all the way through when Trump pulled us out of the Paris Agreement, never mind leading a coup against our democracy. And who did he vote for in 2020? He voted for Trump again. Okay, it's not a moderate guy. Even in 2014, before we had an Act on Climate, we had the Resilient Rhode Island Act, which bound Rhode Island to voluntary carbon emission reductions. He opposed that too. So this is not a moderate guy on climate, and by empowering Kevin McCarthy and Jim Jordan and all of the oil-funded Republicans, and that whole crowd of democracy deniers and racists and fascists, he's not moderate, and he doesn't represent Rhode Island. And when he says that the solution to inflation, which by the way is a worldwide issue, the solution to that is more drilling, which is like his main campaign plank, we say bullshit. We live on this planet and science is real, Alan Fung. So we have a week and a bit left to keep that seat blue. It would be very ironic if Rhode Island, held on to its 2nd congressional district by the skin of its teeth and then gave it to Kevin McCarthy and crew. So I do call on everyone to get out in the next week for the Magaziner campaign. Magaziner is not just an empty suit, blue guy either. He's an excellent Democratic nominee for Congress. As treasurer, he was activist, supporting, managing our pension funds to avoid fossil fuel investments. He was like one of the originators of the infrastructure bank investments in clean energy around Rhode Island. So he's got a great record. He doesn't have necessarily Alan Fung's glad-handing skills, but he's an honest steward of our finances as treasurer and of our environment, and will be great in Congress. So, yeah, go Seth. All right, I think we have a lot of other people who would probably like to speak.
Yeah, anyone feeling called to say?
So this is now, okay, Joel's gonna take the mic.
That's okay. I'm Joel Gates. Sasha, could you come down here a minute? This is news to Sasha. As Justin said, we passed Act on Climate, and Sasha is good enough to model the T-shirt that we had, but we still need to act on climate. It isn't one and done here. So, thank you, Sasha.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I have a few T-shirts here in my backpack, and for a donation, anything you can help, and the money will go to Climate Action Rhode Island for making all these signs and paying for whatever we need to pay for. So see me. I have one medium, like 5 larges, and 6 extra larges. So. The first medium who gets here gets it. So anything you can donate would be great.
Works great as a banner at any size. So.
Thank you, Sasha.
All right.
Big hand for Sasha.
Supermodel.
Modeling career is off to a good start.
Thanks, Joel. Get your T-shirts. All right. Thanks so much, everyone, for keeping the energy, for bringing your bodies, your presence, making ourselves known, putting ourselves out here on a beautiful Saturday. Dave, you want to step on up, share some words?
Only 2 signs?
Sorry. All right, time for another chant. All right, so when the air we breathe is under attack, what do? We stand up and fight back. When Chase funds more fossil fuel projects, what do? We stand up, fight back. All right. So when the air we breathe is under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
When Chase funds more fossil fuel projects, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
When the air we breathe is under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
When Chase funds more fossil fuel projects, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
All right.
Dave, anyone else want to step up? Any of our young Jewish leaders? We heard from Daniel. It was beautiful. All right, guys. Well, there's some more good news in addition to what Justin shared. We're not alone. We're part of the national Stop the Money pipeline fight. We're standing up to the big banks that are still funding new fossil fuel projects, and it's not hard. Renewables are generating a great return, and there's no reason. Solar and wind are making money, huge investments in our energy transition, and these guys just need to get on board and make the call. But we've got activist investors. There's a hedge fund, engine number 1, trying to take over the boards of these organizations, and they got 3 board seats on Exxon's board. So let's hear that. Let's hear a fight. Yeah. We have our own Securities and Exchange Commission. Not the most enlightened, but they're writing a rule now to make all these financial institutions disclose all their investments, including the Scope 3 investments, which are the indirect emissions. The indirect carbon emissions coming from all this funding. So we're in a fight. Let's hear a fight. Right. Yep. And we've got thousands of people, millions of people who are realizing that we can act with our money, who are calling their 401ks and saying, no, I'm changing my plan, I'm moving my money. And as consumers of these financial products, we can call for that, and that's what we're doing here. Bill McKibben's organization, getting all our retirees and those in their 3rd active life to withdraw their money and divest from Chase, happening at the end of this year. So they're joining the fight. Fight! That's right. And we can vote. We're going to vote November 8th. We're going to try to keep our House and Senate blue. And we're just so inspired by our local politicians here, David, Cynthia, Donnie, those who ran. Thank you for running. And we're just going to keep fighting every day with our individual actions, with our collective actions, and with our political voice. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Oh, yeah. Yes. And let's join in front of the bank to take a group photo. And thank you all so much. Let's do it.